warm in here. You good if I cut the...
Yo, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm hot all the time.
But me too. I can't sleep when it's hot, but hot makes me sleepy.
Oh, really?
Makes any sense?
I crank it way down at night. We go down to about 65.
All right, here we go. Boom, shakalaka boom. You're tuned in to the free range human show of choice, your daily dose of reality radio. It starts right now. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm, of course, Clay Edwards, coming at you live here in the Men's Health and Women's Wellness of Mississippi studios. And leave it to Clay to mess with something. There we go. Got it fixed again on the cameras there. We're live in the Men's Health and Women's Wellness of Mississippi studios. Again, I don't know if I said it, but it's your daily dose of reality radio. My guest this morning is my good friend and one of the smartest guys I know. He won't never say that, but I'll say it for him. With the Magnolia Tribune, Mr. Russ Latino. Good morning, Russ.
Good morning. I don't know who y'all you know, though. So, I mean, your network could be small and, in Land of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king. Great to be on with you, man.
No, glad to have you. Glad to have you. I told you this when you walked in, but, man, you're looking great. You've lost some weight, and you sound good. You sound happier. You just look better, great, and you can just – the energy is very good this morning.
Well, that's kind. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I'm 44 years old, and so reality – you talk about doses of reality – kind of dawned on me that if I was going to get healthy, and I'm in the middle of the journey, that it needed to start now. And so we're motoring along.
So I noticed I stay in this journey. I'm hoping this is that this is the time that I don't fall off the rails. But I've noticed the difference in hard fat and loose fat, and as you're losing weight, because of this phase where that fat gets a lot jigglier, or it's more like the skin almost. Like I took my shirt off the other day and it kind of caught, and I watched this ripple effect, but. It sucks. I wish it didn't happen, but it's a good thing that it happened because it's that hard fat breaking up and, kind of in the process. I'm kind of jiggly where I wish I wasn't, but it's a good thing because I'm that's that real, that hardcore, hard to burn fat breaking up. So it was exciting. Yeah,
no, I mean, look, I will say this, that, as you start to lose, and like I said, I'm really in the middle of it. I've got a good bit to go. But as you start to lose, there's certainly those moments where you're like, is this going to be good? Is this going to be good? Yeah. And you start to notice clothes fit differently. And the energy is, you're right. I mean, for a long time, I'd gotten to the point where I'm like, hey, maybe this is what it feels like to be 40-something. And I think as you start to lose and move, I got up to 10 miles a day recently walking, and, your energy level does come back. It's pretty cool.
I'm going to tell you, it all started for me with the testosterone.
Yeah.
I mean, they go back 3 years, I guess a little over 3 years now, getting on the testosterone. It was the difference maker. And I'm not trying to plug that first 5 minutes into the show this morning, but it was the absolute game changer, the catalyst that made all this possible.
Yeah, and you lose all that as you get older, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is, it gave me the confidence to know I could do it.
Because you're pumping iron, too. I saw videos of you and Fred Shanks.
Right.
Or maybe a still picture of Fred, Representative Fred Shanks, who looked like he was struggling a little bit with 225. And I thought, man, for as big as that dude is, was that like set 5, rep 15 or something?
No, look, Fred killed it. I struggled. Fred killed it. Look, I'm going to tell you.
He's a big dude.
He's got full retard strength is what I call it. And
Jeez almighty.
and it's I don't know where I heard that from, but it just stuck years ago. So I was like, Fred, do not underestimate Representative Shanks. He may very well be the strongest rep down there at the state capitol. So he did it twice. There's one off camera where we both made sure we could do it because we weren't going to film this whole charade if we couldn't do it. Just wasn't going to happen.
You didn't want to pull a Mondami,
no.
Right? You saw that a few months ago, right?
That
like
was
at a men's event in New York City, sits down on a bench and can't do 135,
and the guys around him trying to pretend that he did something good, but you could really see the look on their faces.
Sure.
Like body language, like, oh my God, this guy's weak.
They're like 13-year-old girls that can bench press 135 pounds.
That's all that is the one Olympic bar and 2 45-pound plates.
And look, I'm not dogging people that can't do that, but if you can't do that, you don't sit down in front of press.
Exactly.
While you're running for mayor. But who knows? In New York City, that may be something that helps them out.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, look, he drinks a lot of soy.
Yeah, we like the effete
He's
men.
Definitely a vegetarian. He's my guy. He's my guy. But no, look, so we stumbled into this thing because I stumbled into a statistic that blew my mind, and it was that 0 0.05% of American males can bench 225 one time. And it's even lower globally at 0.03. So I was like, no, I don't do flat benches. I do dumbbell, incline, and it's just not. There's no usable strength for that. You know what I mean? It's cool. I mean, I respect guys that got that strength and can do it. It's just not something I do. Plus, my shoulder's been rebuilt. Straight bar is not the best thing for your shoulders. I just didn't want to do it. But I got one out, and I got one off camera out. And it was a struggle. I ain't gonna lie, but it was. Now I was like, well, Fred did 5 twice. I've got to get to 5, so I am doing some things that I've tweaked my workout to try to be able to more comfortably do 225 a couple times. But it's still not something that I plan on. I just want to get to back and say I did 5.
Yeah, look, I used to lift a lot. I was never super strong, but I'm trying to get back into it a little bit. I saw that picture and video, and I thought, well, maybe I need to see if I can work up to that. You're right, though. Like, if one of the problems with social media is that, like, it tends to show you the people who are the best at something. So, like, if you end up looking at, like, weightlifting pages on Facebook, as an example, you just assume that everybody can do 225 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of like the minimal, and then you look at the statistics, and you're like, actually, this is really rare to be able to do this.
And it was funny. There was, of course, there's always some bad actors in the comments, and you would think that all of them could do it. I was like, so I must just be surrounded by the 0.5%, 0.05%, because all these smart asses in my comments seem to think they can do it.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was funny anyway. I'm glad I did it. Again, I joked, but I was being serious at the same time. I damn near pulled a hamstring bench pressing 225. Like, my body strained in places I didn't know it could strain to bench press.
Because I'm like, you're right that at some level there's not really a functional purpose towards a bench. But any dude that's ever lifted weights, I mean, the very first question is, what do you bench?
Exactly.
And it's those compound exercises, right? Benching, squatting, deadlifts are kind of what people talk about doing. I have in the back of my mind, when I'm done with my weight loss journey, that I'm going to figure out how to get to that 1,000 club within those 3 things. It's probably unrealistic, but it's the next set of goal in the back of my head.
Now, what is that exactly?
That between the squat, the deadlift, and the bench, cumulatively, it's 1,000 plus.
Yeah.
I'm a long way from that.
Sure, touche. Touche. Look, my squats are rather embarrassing, but to me, that is like the one thing that I'm the most scared of, because I don't know that I need to be super duper strong with squats. You just need to be able to do them. I do around 150 with my squats. I could do more, yes, but I do 5 sets of 12 reps. And I just want it to work. I want to be functional. I want to be able to do that motion. And it's working. My legs are getting stronger. My buttocks are getting bigger. Whatever a squat's supposed to do, it's working. But it's that one that the risk is so high of, because if you do one thing wrong, you throw your back at it almost 50 years old.
Sure.
It's the one I'm the most scared of trying to overdo.
Yeah, and if you've ever had lower back problems, there's real risk there.
Yeah, and I have. I'm a car wreck. I have a bulged disc in my back, and so I just try to be real careful with the squats. They've always scared me in that sense, because, man, if you mess it up, I was at the Pearl Day this past year, and I literally just bent over to move an extension cord, and I threw something out, and I was out for a week.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything that required bending over, moving, anything. And so it's just in the back of my mind, don't hurt yourself, just trying to look good.
So I ruptured a disc when I was 21 years old and stupid, at church, actually, though. So it's a wholesome story. So we had this pianos at Christmas thing that we would do at our church, and they would bring the grand piano out of what was essentially a little pit next to the stage. And then afterwards, the piano had to be moved back. And so like 15 guys around this grand piano trying to lift it over a wall and then down into this pit where the piano normally went. And I was one of the guys down in the pit ready to receive it. Well, when they came down, I put my hands up like I was going to do a military press with it. And everybody else kind of did a curl position. And so for just a split second, it was just a split second, the weight of that thing came back on my back and ruptured a disc in my lower back. So it took me a little while after that just to get normal again. And then, as I've gotten older and gained weight, it flares up from time to time.
Well, we'll wrap the
conversation
up with this. No. I love it. I could do the whole show about this, because when you run across somebody else that's in a fitness journey, you want to talk about. I was talking with Brad Burleson with Ulyss Realty yesterday. I had a meeting with him, and we got into this very topic about when you're in this journey, you don't really want to hang out with people who aren't, because you're obsessed with talking about it, and you want to talk about it with other people who are doing it. just because it's what it engulfs your life, right? When you're trying to do this, and you would at least like to be able to have conversation with people, socialize people who are also sharing interests, right? And that's with anything.
You're trying to build new disciplines too, right?
Right.
And so if like you're used to living a certain way, and we talked about this off air, is like in Mississippi, everything social involves food. Mm-hmm. And so you almost
food first, alcohol second.
You almost have to find friends whose first thought isn't, hey, let's go get pizza or wings or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think, I'll say this as a guy who struggled with what I've called chronic fat ass syndrome for most of my adult life, is like some of my skinny friends would look at me and say, hey, if I want to go splurge, I should invite Russ because he likes to eat like this, right? Yeah. And so like you become the guy that they invite to do unhealthy things with because they just assume you also want to do unhealthy things.
Yeah.
And so resetting your brain to say, actually, like I've got to be able to tell friends, nah, we can go have coffee, but we're not going to go have wings this Saturday, right?
Right. That was it. And we were talking yesterday about how do you get there. And one of the things is, sometimes you have to leave old friends, hit the pause button on some friendships to get there, just because you know that if you go into those environments that it could be turn into a 2 or 3 day to completely falling off the wagon for good, because it's like, well, and I've always been the world's worst about this. Well, if I can't be 100% perfect, I shouldn't try at all. It's like, if I'm going to eat this pizza today, I'm going to eat fried chicken later today, instead of let's just stop at the pizza.
Yeah.
Then it just becomes, well, you know what? I ate pizza, I ate fried chicken. Let's go on and get that milkshake.
And I do think mentally that happens, right? Like it's like you have a quote unquote cheat day, which people talk about. And the next day you're like, oh, I just had a cheat day. So while I've worked in this unhealthy food, let me get this other thing that I normally crave.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you've broken the good habit. So.
Exactly. Well, Russ, congratulations. Everybody, didn't mean to jump down the rabbit hole here, but I know that these are the conversations that actually, when I clip them out and put them up, that people seem to relate to the most and enjoy the most. Because I think so many people are going through this very thing that we're talking about. And I know my listeners probably get nauseated with me about every 3 months, 6 months going through this. But I think you get the best version of me and you get the best version of the show whenever I'm doing my best away from this place. So
this is kind of cool to be authentic. I would just say congratulate me 60 pounds from now. So.
Well, look, you were heading there, man. It's good to see. Guys, you can get started on this journey too. Well, I will go on and plug it now. This conversation was brought to you by the free testosterone screening at Men's Health of Mississippi, right out there in Madison on Highland Colony Parkway. Now, look, let me just tell you something. They have one location. They do not have one in Brandon too. If so many of my good close friends didn't just text Clay to 601-800-5130, y'all decided to Google it, and you Googled the wrong place. Now, I'm just no knock on the other place, but if you're trying to support Clay, if you're trying to support WYAB, just keep it simple. Text Clay to 601-800-5130, and the lovely team over there at Men's Health and Women's Wellness in Mississippi will contact you back, and it's going to say two simple things. Are you interested in testosterone, or are you interested in weight loss? And you can reply both. And they will get in touch with you. They will set up an appointment. They will give you the address. You could drop that in your pen, and that is where you will go. And if you go to the wrong place across the street, that is the place that has two locations, one across the street from them and one in Brandon. Again, no knock at them, but you're not supporting me if you do business with them. At the end of the day, I want you all to get on testosterone. So wherever you get it, however you get it is great. But if you want to support what we do here, make sure you're just texting Clay to 601-800-5130. Get that free testosterone screening today, and please do consider compounded semaglutide too if you're struggling with weight. It helped me train myself to push the plate away when I was full, and that's it. Also, there's some studies out there now too that it shows, and it's helping people battle alcohol addiction and alcoholism.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. It's killing the craving for it, and for me, Russ, I've kind of quit drinking too. I will have a beer here and there. I've learned that if I try to just not drink, then it becomes like this mental struggle with myself. And I'm doing it for the fitness side of it, not because I thought I was drinking too much, but it's hard to do keto if you're going to drink.
Yeah.
Like the carbs and alcohol, it just does not work. And so I just like, well, but instead of like forcing myself to get on some 100-day streak of not drinking, I was like, how about just, if I want to have a beer, I just have a beer. And usually just that beer or two kills the craving for it all together. It's like, okay, I did that now. I actually feel kind of guilty that I did that, and I don't want to do it again. So instead of like forcing myself to like this cold turkey quit kind of deal, I guess it's like Matt that owns the radio station. We talk about keto versus calorie restrictive diets all the time. And he's a calorie restrictive guy. He's like, if you just watch your calories, it doesn't matter what you eat. I can't do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Matt's a lot skinnier than I am, so maybe he's onto something. I will say this though, the science around this now suggests that calories in, calories out formulation really isn't the way that you lose weight if you're already bigger than you want to be.
Yeah.
Because what you eat does matter. It's not just calories. The way that your hormones react to certain foods, and everybody's different on this, but the way that your hormones react to certain foods, the release of ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, obviously the release of insulin, how much insulin gets released, all that stuff varies by the type of food that you're eating and has a tremendous impact. So like for me, like I'm doing stuff that doctors would probably tell you not to do. But doing the stuff that doctors told me to do, I wasn't losing any weight. And so, I'm fasting, right? So I'll do prolonged periods of fasting, in a way that has allowed me to sort of jumpstart the process.
All right. Well, I did learn, and what is it with this? I did learn that, say you're intermittent fasting or something, or you do a 24-hour fast, and you come off of it, you better not eat carbs. You better keep the carbs, because let's just say it's 40 carbs. Those can be amplified 10x the way your body absorbs them, because it's in a fasting state. So you better be very careful about, I didn't eat for 24 hours, but the first thing you ate is bread, pizza, a candy bar. You might as well have just not fasted.
Yeah, no, I think it's true.
And just ate pizza all day, because your body was going to absorb every single carb because it is starving. So, all right, we got Russ Latino here in the studio. When we come back, we're going to get into the topic at hand. Did Clinton High School intentionally block TPUSA chapters from opening up after the Charlie Kirk assassination? It does appear that way. Mr. Latino and Magnolia Tribune have done a great piece, and they've been on top of this since it happened. I want to talk about Russ. I want to talk about that with Russ, and I also wouldn't mind getting into the government shutdown a little bit if Russ is up for it this morning. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on The Clay Edwards Show. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. If you're watching online, we got the volume fixed. I'm going to strangle Chip Matthews or whomever changed the setting. But, hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. We got it fixed here, so I apologize if y'all missed that first segment there. If you were watching online, it will be available on the podcast, the audio-only podcast. But thank you to everybody who texted in and dropped the comments in. It's all the more reasons why I need to keep the comments pulled up so I can see that I have a problem, but I forgot to pull them up. And
it's a shame because it was the most salacious 30 minutes of radio I've ever done.
Absolutely. If y'all missed that, you missed. I mean, just breaking news.
I'll probably never be that intense again.
No, me either. I said things that could get me canceled. Finally, I'll admit, I said some things that could get me canceled. I think we both called ourselves fat asses.
Yeah, the chronic fat ass syndrome was the reference. Yeah,
I like it. Hey, speaking of all that good stuff, guys, one thing we got on this radio show is a bunch of great sponsors that are restaurants. And I went and ate at one of them yesterday. I had a business lunch with my buddy Brad Burleson over at Ulyss Realty and Edwin, and we went to McBee's, and it's a struggle when I go to these places, and lunch has been my Achilles heel, because if I eat lunch, I'm usually going to eat a healthy lunch, and I don't mean healthy in the weight loss sense. I mean in the
healthy.
I'm gonna eat that blue plate.
Sure.
But I did good yesterday because they always have you learn to create healthy options. So I went with the grilled pork chop instead of the fried, and I was proud of myself.
Yeah.
And I've got back. I'll get on these soft drink kicks, and they know Christy, the bartender, my friend. She's like, Dr. Pepper and water. I'm like, just the water.
There you go.
Just the water. But anyhow, I say all that to say the blue plate special of the day at McBee's, whether you're eating healthy or not, they got you covered because you can do the chicken breast. But today's Thursday. The special is red sauce spaghetti, and it is oh so good if you like spaghetti. I'm not even a red sauce spaghetti fan. I like Alfredos and chicken spaghettis and stuff. But I will eat it here and there. Like if somebody cooks it, I'm not pushing it away. But I wanted to try everything on the menu, so I could honestly give my opinion on it. Their red sauce spaghetti is great, but if that's not your thing, they do have hamburger steak, which works great for keto. They have chicken breast or country fried steak, and of course the vegetables: okra and stewed tomatoes, black-eyed peas, turnip greens, rice and gravy, side salad, lima beans, green beans, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, fried okra, or fries. So, if you've been doing this long enough, you can create you a carbless plate lunch right there from McBee's. And I went a little half and half yesterday. I did get the fried okra because they have, in my opinion, the best fried okra in town.
It's hard to pass fried okra, man.
It really is. Let's take a call real quick before we jump into this conversation on the Mazda Jackson phone line. Hey, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Clay. I was headed toward I-220 yesterday, going to Industrial Drive to take my son some lunch. I live in Rankin County, of course. But on the way up there, that going there is nothing but a junk. It's trash. And I was thinking, since the fair was going to be in town, everybody was going to clean up everything. I saw mattresses on the highway. It was unbelievable.
And where was that at?
On 20 westbound going to I-220 to Industrial Drive. It was terrible.
Yeah, it's bad. Of course, I come through there every day, and I'm just wildly disappointed. I will say that at least up through the Ellis Avenue area there, they do have the street lights working again. So kudos to NDOT for that.
Okay. But everything else, it was just terrible. But the fair will be here today, and they would have everything cleaned up, but no.
Well, it's unfortunate, but hey, if you don't expect anything, you won't be disappointed when you don't get it.
That is true, and I didn't expect nothing else from out of Hines County. But thank you. Have a great day. Enjoy the show. Bye.
Thanks. I love my callers.
Can I say this, though? I actually do think that Mayor John Horn's doing a good job so far.
I do, too.
I mean, look, are there things that people wish would happen faster? Yeah, but if you look at sort of the level of activity, just getting out and filling potholes and paving streets and the stuff that's the basic blocking and tackling, I think they're looking for the right police chief, obviously, right now. You got to give them a little credit compared to where we were just a few months ago.
Well, it's like I said, for the year leading up to the election, whoever wins, if they'll just come in and quit doing all the wrong things right, they're going to look really smart. Just letting, letting a wound heal on your arm, a scab, if you just quit picking at it, it'll heal. The last mayor, administration in general, just kept picking at scabs. And for the analogy here, it's like traditionally, for 100 years, for government to run correctly, you just take a right, take a right, take a right. At every opportunity to take a traditional right, Chockway took a left. And if you would just get back to taking the rights, just doing the right thing, period. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room, but it's gotten so bad, if you'll just do that again, you're going to look great. And I think John's getting back to just do it. Let's just quit trying to reinvent the wheel and just let it go round and round. And some of this will autocorrect.
Yeah, and look, John's smart. I think he's surrounding himself with some smart people. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. It's too early to say this is going to be a raving success, but comparatively, already they're doing things, and I think have kind of built the right kind of team. And then you look at the level of cooperation that I think you're going to get from the legislature, from the governor. They all like him. Yeah. I mean, he had a history of working across the aisle and being easy to talk to and easy to work with. And I think people are going to want to help, as we come up into this next session. And so I think Jackson's like, if I know part of your brand has been like, hey, Jackson's not where it needs to be. And that's true. I think Jackson has an opportunity right now to right some wrongs.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I said it straight up. Now, there's going to be some things I talk about because this is my brand. It's my show. I mean, I'm going to talk about Jackson crime and some of the things I see that are just out of control, but just the culture rot more so. But I did say I'm going to give it a year, unless there's something just egregious. I'm going to give John a year to find the bathrooms, so to say, before I start really peeling back and being nitpicky, because I think that there's going to be a lot to un-F around here. And I'm going to give him an opportunity to get his people in place, let them figure out where the bathrooms are at. And I'll be honest, these people, I think the expectation is you got to come in and start working from day one. And you're seeing that. You mentioned it with the potholes and stuff. These people they're hiring, they seem to be hitting the ground running. And that's wildly impressive based on the last 7 or 8 years.
And look, I would say this too, is like, it's possible to do both things, to recognize that progress is being made in a way that is at least somewhat encouraging, and simultaneously not to hide from the fact that there's some significant challenges in Jackson that are going to be hard for anybody to solve for.
No doubt. So I'm excited. I'm optimistic for the first time instead of pessimistic that some things are going to get done and that we're going to start enforcing some laws around here, and little stuff like code ordinance and whatnot are going to be big things, and not just quit just going after businesses to go after. How about start going after people for the broke down cars in their yard? all this little stuff. Get back to the quality of life things. Get back to people holding the people accountable for not cutting their grass, holding businesses accountable, illegal signage. I mean, let's just get back to enforcing what's on the books. Code ordinances, to me, just like the number one thing that the last administration just said, we're not going to bully the citizens.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is true not just in Jackson but everywhere. But having pride in where you live is a pretty good indicator of of the quality of life that you're going to have.
Well, Russ, one of the things for me that really grinded my gears, I did not intend to get on this, but we're here now. There's a crew of guys, and God bless them, and I don't talk about them much, but it's the guys, they're all from like Rankin and Madison County, and they've been cleaning the interstates and all that. It's Casey, Bridges, and some other guys, and they're doing great work. But there's a part of me that wishes they didn't do it, and this is just selfish. I get it. I should be glad they're doing it. I should give them their roses, right? But they're doing it for a bunch of people who really don't appreciate it overwhelmingly. The second they clean up the interstate, pressure wash it, all this stuff, these people, and some of the comments I've seen online from people is, y'all supposed to be doing it. Y'all should be doing it. We shouldn't be having to do it. Y'all all left Jackson. The least you can do is come back and clean it. I'm like, how about thank you? How about that? How about y'all clean your own city? Or how about, I don't know, the people that we pay taxes to clean and pressure wash the interstates and bridges and everything else, how about they do it? Like the citizenry shouldn't have to be doing that.
Yeah, look, and I think there's a danger, and I came up in churches, came up doing mission work, and part of the danger that I saw in church mission work is like you would take a group of youth to some city, right, in the United States, presumably with the thought that you're going to share the gospel of Christ, but really it was a work trip. And you'd go into a neighborhood and you'd clean up trash or you'd paint houses, and you were helping to beautify where people lived. And at some level, it reinforces bad behavior, right? Because in an ideal world, some random person doesn't come and clean Russ's yard, right? Because Russ is trashy. Russ gets out and cleans his yard because he cares enough about where he lives, whether it's an 800 square foot or 8,000 square foot house. Right? He cares enough about where he lives that he's going to take care of his own property. And if everybody does that, communities get a lot safer. They get a lot closer to each other. And so at some level, it's reinforcing bad behavior if somebody else comes and does it for you, when it's something that you're capable of doing yourself and should be motivated to do.
Yeah. How about don't throw trash out your car while you're driving down the interstate? That's a good start. How about don't litter so people don't have to do this? I mean, these are real simple things. We're rewarding bad behavior. Well, how about y'all come pressure wash my driveway? Come cut my yard. I'm doing good.
And look, there are exceptions to this, right? If you have an 85-year-old live-in widow who can't get out and cut the grass, then I think it's awesome that somebody will go and volunteer to cut her grass.
Amen.
And that should happen, right? 100%. So that's a different scenario.
Like, I would rather see that energy put in that direction. Find out who the little old ladies are that need the help, or little old men, whatever. And I'm not saying people aren't helping them, but I'd rather see that than cleaning up the interstates and all that stuff. Again, I think I don't want to diminish what they're doing. I think it's great, but I feel like you're enabling the people who are littering and doing this. I don't know. I'm just wildly conflicted. I think it enables bad behavior as kind of rewards bad behavior.
Well, and look, I mean, you see this internationally, and I think even progressives now recognize some of the damage that was done globally in what was a well-intentioned thing, like, hey, we're going to go feed the world, right? They're hungry people. We're going to go feed the world. Or there are places where there's not indoor plumbing or running water or whatever. We're going to go fix that. We did it for people and never taught people that skill set in a way that even today there's reliance there. And so I think the challenge has always been like, how do you be tenderhearted and compassionate the way that I would argue the Bible requires you to be, while simultaneously recognizing that sometimes being tenderhearted and compassionate is forcing people to get into uncomfortable situations and figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, what I feel like it's kind of done too, and this is just me directly here, is it's raised the price of tea in China a bit, because now when I get to arguing about people and the things that they've done to Jackson, well, why ain't you out there like them other guys cleaning up the interstate? Because I'm not going to clean up your mess. I'm not your mama. Is why. God bless them that they feel moved to do that, and that's their ministry. My ministry is putting my boot up your ass and telling you that you've screwed up. That's my ministry.
I mean, look, people were mad at Mr. Beast, what was that, about a year ago, because he was going into parts of Africa that didn't have wells and was digging wells. And I mean, even really progressive voices were saying this is counterproductive, because really what needs to happen in those settings is like people have the resources and institutional knowledge to do that for themselves, because that's sustainable long term.
Yeah, and those wells are already dried up and no good and been robbed and pillaged and everything else. My understanding is it was all just a big waste. And
although I will say that guy tries to do a lot of good. He really does.
He does. I'm not hating on him. He does try to do a lot of good, but he gets paid very well for the good deeds he does.
That's true too.
With content monetization. But, hey, I'm not a hater on that at all. Thank y'all for the money I made the last couple months on my content. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're actually going to jump into the TPUSA versus Clinton debacle that's going on out there. Don't go anywhere. Here on The Clay Edwards Show. Welcome back in to The Clay Edwards Show. We got about 5 or 6 minutes left on this hour here, 6 minutes. Let's just jump straight in. I'm not going to do an ad read right now. Russ, TPUSA versus Clinton. First off, this is the first time you and I have had a chance to talk since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Let me ask you this. You're here for the next hour, right?
I can stay for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can peel this onion back a little slower. Well, when that happened, man, take me back to, because it's going to be, that's the moment I'll never forget. That's 9/11. It was like 9/11. I'll never forget who I was with, exactly what I was doing. The whole thing is just, it is like frozen in time in my brain, the way I felt and everything. I'm sure you've gotten threats over the years. I know I have. Take us back to the day of the assassination as this whole thing unfolded. Where were you at? What were you doing? How did you feel? Put us in a time.
I was just working. I think I happened to see on Twitter the close-up video, and I've never seen anything like that in my life. Like I practiced law for a while, and some of my practice involved life insurance claims, and so I've seen photos that are gruesome. I've never seen sort of in real time the amount of blood that was involved in that, and I don't say that to be gory or salacious, but
no, I know what you mean.
That alone, the injury alone, impacted me. I think it was an odd moment in the sense that, like, we had seen President Trump obviously get shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. I didn't have the same emotional reaction to that as I had to the Kirk assassination. Part of it is that Trump obviously survived.
I was going to say the immediate, that would be different if he hadn't survived or hadn't got up on his own.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think the other part of it, though, is, and this may come across wrong, is like at some level, if there's going to be a political assassination, you would expect it to be someone in Congress or president, right? Somebody that actually has the ability to impact policy that impacts people. Charlie Kirk had none of that. He had no political power other than the fact that his ideas impacted people.
He had influence.
And so the thing that I think was disturbing is somebody that clearly doesn't have nearly the audience or scale that he's got, but who has been involved in conversations around policy for a long time. It's like, hey, somebody could be killed just for what they think. In a country that has been built off of the idea that the free exchange of ideas is sort of bedrock to who we are as a people, part of what makes us exceptional. And so in that moment, I think there was a vulnerability. You mentioned 9/11. Obviously, 9/11 involved 3,000 people dying. It involved wars after the fact. So different scale, but a similar type of vulnerability where you go, oh my gosh, like things like this can happen.
To everyday people.
Yeah. And there was also this poignant moment in my brain of he's on a college campus. And if you think about the whole point of college, it really should be a marketplace of ideas where you test what ideas work and what ideas don't. Iron sharpens iron kind of thing. And so that is the environment that should be most suitable to real exploration and debate of tough issues. And so I think it was just sort of that juxtaposition of like, here's a normal guy who got killed for his ideas and thoughts on a college campus. And it created a sense of real vulnerability. I think it also woke up a lot of people who said like, hey, look, this is not just a words versus words thing. Like we're at a moment societally where people are so angry at each other and see each other so much as their enemy that stuff like this can happen.
Yeah, that's a great explanation of it. It was just the vulnerability, and it really made me take a step back. And I know that my friends and family and audience all mean well when they're like, hey, man, you really need to keep your head on a swivel. and so on and so forth, with all the stuff that you deal with and do and say and everything else. And it made it real.
You make people mad?
Yeah, apparently so. Very polarizing, they say. But it blows my mind. I don't want to say it kills me, figuratively, that your words can anger somebody so bad that they want to kill you. Like, to me, I'm just talking about thugs and criminals and people who have actually killed people, but it's never them that I'm really worried about. It's people who feel like they have to defend them, or that they get offended by the blast radius of me talking about them. It's like, we have to kill this guy. So why does Clay keep talking about black violence and black on black crime? I wish he would shut up. You know what? I'm going to commit a crime. I'm going to be violent and threaten him. Like, well, you're mad. You're going to do the thing that you're mad that I'm talking about.
Well, and look,
it blows my mind. And it ain't just them. I get death threats from white people too.
Sure. And so what I would say is, like, we grew up with this adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. There's some truth to that, but there's also, there's a degree of falsehood to that, because we're emotional people, right? And things do hurt people's feelings or get people angry or fearful. But we bought into for a little while this idea, and it really started on the left side of the spectrum on college campuses, that words are violence. And if you allow yourself to believe that the things that Clay says, and you say some stuff I disagree with.
Sure.
I say some stuff you disagree with, right? But like, if you allow yourself to buy into this idea that the words that Clay says are violence, then you become justified in doing violence.
Well, they also tell us that silence is violence. So words are violence and silence is violence. If you're not, it's not just, you can't just be against racism. You have to be outspoken anti-racist as well. So if you don't agree with them publicly, if you're not an outspoken ally, you might as well be an enemy, and that is dangerous as well.
Yeah, look, I just think we've got to get to the point again where we recognize that violence is violence. Like, if I walk up to you and punch you in the face, you have the ability to punch me back. But if I walk up to you and tell you you're a colossal dumbass, your response should be, well, I don't like you either, or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're not justified in punching me in the face.
So I agree.
And so, like, just getting to the point where we're emotionally mature enough to recognize there are going to be people who say things that we absolutely disagree with, and we can either debate those people or we can roll our eyes and move on. I mean, I think that every time I'm on Facebook, I'm like, why are these random people starting fights with people you don't even know, right? Like, you are wasting your time. Roll your eyes and move on.
Yeah, I got into Jeremy England commented something yesterday, made a post yesterday about people starting off, they want to debate you, but they insult you first. Like, you effing idiot, why don't you debate me? Or you're a douchebag, why don't you debate me? Well, you've already crossed into the insults.
Sure.
Why would I debate you? I dealt with the same thing earlier this week with some little kid with 300 followers sending me all kind of nasty messages trying to get me to debate him. Basically, he wants me to platform him.
Sure.
I'm like, there's no.
You're smart enough to know that, right?
Yeah. Like, why would I do that?
Sure.
But even if I would entertain it, the way you started the conversation off with the insults, why would I want to do that for you? Like, to introduce you to my 250,000 followers would be the best thing that ever happened to you. If you're so good, if your opinions are so strong, you could take advantage of that, like I've done in the past. But now, because you've insulted me to start the conversation, I'm not going to do that. We got to take a break. We'll be right back with Russ Latino here on WYAB. Actually, we're going to carry the conversation on in the live chat during the break. Y'all don't go nowhere. You got to take the headphones off for this.
Okay.
Yeah, during the breaks, it sends the radio signal, whatever, the commercials through the headphones.
Okay.
But but we're still live. We can talk. I like this conversation, and I don't want to just stop it because we're going to have like a weird run of commercials here. But it is. It's like, if you want to debate, I'll debate you. I don't really like the debating thing anyway. Let's just talk. Like, you and I met up, and we talked about the school choice stuff.
Yeah.
We're on the opposite sides of this thing, on some of it. And I came out of that conversation. I didn't really change my mind, but I appreciated the fact that we had a logical conversation. And you were interested in why I felt the way I felt. And I think that's always the best way if you're ever going to get somebody to change their mind, is to listen to how they feel about it. Be respectful about that, and then explain why you feel the way you do. Put your side out there, and let the marketplace of ideas win the day.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, I think there's there's this thing called the sunk cost fallacy in economics, which is like once somebody believes something or once they've invested in something, it happens in the actual trading, like marketplace, where it's like, hey, I've invested in this stock and it's lost 50% of its value. And instead of getting out of it, you're waiting for it to somehow redeem itself. And I think the problem with modern debate is too many people go into it with the thought process that says, under no circumstances am I ever going to change my mind. And there's got to be a willingness, one, to hear, to your point, hear what somebody else has to say and consider the possibility that they might be right and you might be wrong if you're going to have any kind of movement. And I think that used to happen in a better way before social media. But social media has, like this conversation we're having, obviously, I guess on YouTube, but social media has made it such that you have an audience now. So the stakes for changing your mind have gone up. It's become harder to change your mind because that's seen as a pride hit or an ego hit.
Yeah.
Right. Versus if you're just having a one-on-one conversation, you might go, hey, I hadn't thought of that way.
Yeah. If you look like you agree with the other person, you lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you've lost some reputation. Yeah. You've lost part of your brand. And I would say, like, even like the school choice conversation that we had, yeah, like we disagreed on the idea of public to public school choice, like where a kid gets to leave one public school and go to another. But we didn't disagree on the idea of like universal, what's called universal ESAs, right? Where like a portion of the money that students already are getting spent on by the state, that would allow them to go to a private school. Like I think we agreed on that part, right? So,
and that's what you weren't aware that I did agree on that. And we kind of came out of that. It's like, really, it's just like, if it's 3/3 here, it's just 1/3 of this thing I don't agree with.
Yeah. And so, like, but being able to have that conversation in a non-combative way, it was like, oh, wait, there actually is common ground. Mm-hmm. We just disagree on this one thing over here. Well, then there's an opportunity for us to get something done.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I'm a negotiator.
Yeah.
I'm a dealsman. And
and that's the nature of life. It's also the nature of legislation. Is like you have to have trade-offs.
No, absolutely. Circling back to the Jeremy England thing real quick. So I just commented and I told the little story about this guy trying to argue with me. I was like, he started off with an insult. Why would I, grant him the ability to come on and, just platform this guy? Why would I make him famous? You know what I mean? So to say, not that my platform's that big, but long story short, and it never fails. A couple people in the comments, oh, well, Clay, you're scared to debate people. You just like to argue with people. And what's funny is I've never been rude to a guest on this show, ever, even people I've disagreed with. Frankly, it's hard to get people to come on here that disagree with me. But I've always been respectful. I can't even think of a time that I've shouted anybody down at all. Maybe argue with some callers here and there that call very aggressively. So it's kind of like this myth of because Clay is an outspoken conservative, he must also be scared of debate. Because he doesn't interview Democrats. Well, bro, where are these Democrats at that want to come on and actually debate?
Well, and at some level, it's like, and you mentioned that you don't even like the word
straw man arguments.
Well, you don't even like the word debate, right? And it's like, well, if the point of the conversation is a good faith exchange of ideas where people are open to having their minds changed, those are conversations worth having. If the point of the conversation is to get famous by making you look stupid,
yeah.
I mean, nobody's ever had their mind changed by being made to feel stupid.
No,
never.
They
might give up. They might, but at the end of the day, they're angry about it, and they're even more dug in than where they started, right? And so, yeah, I mean, again, there's some biblical truth here, which is like you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. And if you want to have constructive conversations, the best way to do that is not by assuming the other person is stupid, but by trying to understand why they believe what they believe.
That's why Sean and I have had such a good friendship that was supposed to kind of start off as a bit of a debate show. We realized that we agreed on so much stuff for the most part, and we also agreed that even when we get our angriest that we're going to be adults and not get into a shouting match. And in involving Sean, for those couple of years on the show before they went off and did their own thing, was really, really good for me learning, actually finally having somebody sitting across from me that we did disagree on some stuff and learning that for the most part, we agreed on like real core principle things. It's just kind of like these ancillary things that we disagree on. That was a very healthy growing point for me to be able to say, okay, maybe I'm not as bedrock about some of these things as I thought I was. And then there are some things that it made me realize that I'm even more adamant about.
Well, and there's something different when you're sitting down across from somebody versus preaching at them on the internet and you don't have to see them or meet them or whatnot, right? Like, and you see that in other areas of life. So, like, as an example, the conversation around immigration, and that's a complex conversation, and I know your audience probably leans one direction pretty heavily, but I would look at it and say, okay, a lot of people talk about mass deportation as an example of Mexican and South American immigrants, but then you say, well, what about the fellow that serves your lunch when you go to this restaurant, or what about the people that come and cut your grass?
And you start personalizing
it.
and
you're like, oh, well, I know so-and-so.
Yeah.
Right? And then it becomes a lot harder to paint with such a broad brush. I think that's true in the context of like Republicans, Democrats, liberals, and conservatives too. Is like at some level, if you just sit down with somebody who's like hardcore on the other side of you and you start talking about the things that they want out of life, they want their kids to have better jobs than what they had, right? They want a house, they want a car, they want a safe community. Like there are all these things that everybody wants, like that everybody kind of views as like this is a measure of a good life. And the real debate or the real sort of difference is how do we get there? And like if you start from that vantage point where you don't assume that the other person is evil, but they just have a different view on the way to get somewhere, I think there's opportunity.
No, I agree, and I talk about this a lot. I'll come on here and I kind of paint with a broad brush, but I do tell people, look, there's obviously, nuance here. There's special exceptions. I come in here and talk about Democrats are evil, but one of my best friends is a Democrat.
Sure.
And Sean and a buddy of mine, Marvell. I mean, two off the top of my head, two of my closest friends are Democrats and think I'm wrong about a lot of stuff, and that's fine. Well, we either talk about those things or we don't. We talk about normal stuff. Like I don't ride in a car with my Democrat friends and talk about politics the whole time. We actually both like football.
Yeah.
Like there's real life stuff too that sometimes you kind of get lost in the arguing about policy and politics and culture war stuff that you forget that there's actually real life stuff that we enjoy as well. And when you find that common ground, it makes life a lot easier.
And I don't mean to be over religious on.
We can all be a bit hypocritical at times, but if there's some obvious stuff, I try to just be like, look, people think I'm very judgy. I'm really not. I don't let people live, but the Overton window has moved over so much that if you just want to be left alone or just let people live, that makes you far one way or the other now because the Overton window has moved so far.
The problem is that there are not a ton of people who still believe in sort of what I would call American pluralism, which I think is actually one of our founding values, is that people get to believe different stuff.
Yep. All right, we're coming back from break. Shakalaka boom. It's hour 2 of the most incendiary show on the RADIO. This is the Clay Edwards Show here live on 103.9 FM WYAB. We are streaming in stunning HD worldwide at Save JXN on Facebook, YouTube, and X, and we're on Rumble at Save JXN. If you're watching on any of those platforms, hit the like button, hit the share button if you're on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment, hit the like. It truly, truly does help us with the algorithm. If you like it, they assume more people who watch the things that you like will like it too, and they'll recommend these videos to people on YouTube, which helps us grow, and it doesn't cost you a penny to hit the like button. So please, please, please smash the like button as the YouTubers.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. And we gained over 500 subscribers on YouTube last month, which I know in the big picture that may not sound like a lot, but that's 500 new people that subscribe to a little old show out of Jackson, Mississippi. We're almost at 10,000 YouTube subs here 5 years into this, and it's taken a while. There's not been no big one viral moment that's got us anywhere. It's been just chipping away and chipping away and chipping away, and I do think we'll eventually get that. We'll have that moment when we get X amount of followers and enough people see something that resonates with them. But guys, please do hit that like button. This segment is going to be brought to you by our friends over at. I've been talking about it all week. I want to drive it home. It starts today, round 1, the PGA Championship, the Sanderson Farms Championship, which is the only PGA event in Mississippi. But not only is it the only PGA event, it's the only major professional sporting event in the state of Mississippi. I know we can argue that college football is now a pro sport, and it always has been.
And has been for quite some time.
Yeah, it always has been. But it's the only legitimate pro sport event in the state of Mississippi, and it's right here in Jackson. For all the negative things about Jackson, this is one of the shining house on the hill, beautiful moments that we have here in the city, something we really should all wrap our arms around and get out and support if you want to keep it, whether it's Jackson, Central Mississippi, whatever. They're at the Country Club of Jackson. And the first round starts today. I'm going to be out there Saturday. My buddy Fred Shanks, my buddy Sutton, my buddy Michael, we're all going. We got some Michelob Ultra Pavilion passes, which you can get those as well at SandersonFarmsChampionship.com. And you can buy tickets. You can buy the Mick Ultra Pavilion. It's kind of like their VIP thing. There's going to be a bunch of TVs there. You can catch all the college football action, the golf action. It's a great socializing event. Just going to be a grand time. The weather's going to be beautiful. Come join us. If you can't do Saturday, get you some tickets for Sunday. I think you just buy the ticket and go whatever day you want. They're just whatever ticket's good for any day, but it's only one you got. If you're going 2 days, you got to buy 2 tickets. So just FYI, it's not a weekend pass. I do believe they do offer those, but it's not too expensive. But it is a nice event, and it does cost a few bucks. But I think if you buy a ticket and a VIP pavilion pass, it's about $130 for both. Which if you bought a concert ticket lately, and you try to do a VIP upgrade, you're probably talking about at least $500. So for the money, it's a really, really good deal. And parking's off-site there at North Park. You park there. They bring a shuttle bus back and forth. They'll keep them running all day. You're not going to have to wait long to get to or from your vehicle. The weather's going to be beautiful. Come out there, hang out with me, come say hey. And Saturday, wear your favorite college colors. It's University Day. So going to be fun. Russ, you going to get by?
We're going to an event tonight tied to it, kind of their opening event. And
sponsorship party.
Yeah, so we'll do a little bit of that tonight, and we'll see. I might. It's a good event.
I'm trying to angle some tickets for the sponsorship party. I've been working some angles. They have not worked out so far, but I would love to go to the sponsorship party.
We can talk about it off air, maybe.
Maybe so. All right. Well, look, so we got Russ Latino here, Magnolia Tribune, one of my favorite journalists in the state, if not my personal favorite. And Magnolia Tribune does just phenomenal work. And Russ grabbed a hold of something like a dog on a bone the other day. And I'm really glad he did, because he brings a level of credibility and a level of scrutiny to this topic that I think needs to be. And he shines a light on it as one of the most influential journalists and policymakers in the state. And it's in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, and that's why I wanted to really get Russ's opinion on that and kind of his thoughts on the whole thing before we dove into this. These TPUSA chapters, which is Turning Point USA, for those that don't know, Charlie Kirk's foundation that he founded, and the growth has been stupendous since his death. Thousands and thousands of new charters popping up, and in these high schools where we really need to be trying to win the culture war. Just like colleges, man, if we can get a hold of them in high schools, they go to colleges, kind of ready to fight the fight or knowing how to fight it. And Clinton, for some reason, has decided that it's a no-go there. So I've kind of laid the groundwork for you here, man. Tell us kind of what happened.
So let me start by saying that obviously what happened to Charlie Kirk was a tragedy, a horrible tragedy. I didn't always agree with him, and I didn't always agree with TPUSA. I did agree fundamentally with the idea that we should be having open debate on these issues, and that open debate is good. And so what happened was, after his death, to your point, thousands and thousands of new chapters, high school and college, of TPUSA started to form. A couple of Saturdays ago, so 2+ Saturdays ago, a teacher at Clinton High School sent out an email to a handful of students. And that email essentially said, hey, I know you're interested in this sort of stuff because you've talked to me in the past about wanting to start some kind of club that focuses on patriotism and sort of the exchange of ideas and debate. What do you think about potentially doing a TPUSA chapter? That email said explicitly this would have to be student-led. You would have to come up with the names of other students who are interested in spearheading the effort to start this thing. And there was a plan of sorts put together. Some of these kids started sharing it with their friends. They came back with names of people who wanted to be involved. And essentially, they planned to get together the following Tuesday, September 16th, to have a planning meeting with the teacher. Well, our sources say that email got around to a wide group of people. And one of the sets of hands that it ended up in was a set of parents who were very much opposed to the idea of there being a TPUSA chapter on Clinton's campus. And that was communicated to school officials. So what happens then is that on Monday, September 15th, the teacher that afternoon sends out an email to these students who are ready to meet the next day, just saying there will be no meeting tomorrow. The following day, one of the students follows up and says, well, when are we going to reschedule it? Because they're excited about doing this. and she emails back and says, there won't be a rescheduling. You need to go talk to the principal about this. Well, the backstory of those few days and the way that we got a hold of this was that we got contacted by two sources that said, hey, look, some students wanted to start this TPUSA chapter, and they got shut down by the school administration. And we were told that there were three reasons given by the administration. The first was that this was too political and we don't do political clubs. It's going to be divisive. The second explanation, which came later, was, well, this was teacher-led, and because it's teacher-led, it violates a district policy. And then once students voiced, hey, no, actually, we want this, the third explanation that was given was, hey, it's too late in the year to start a new club. And so all of this unfolds.
We're a month into school.
So all of this unfolds, and you start to see, and the only way we know this is because we did public record requests on Clinton High School. You start to see emails directly from students to the principal of Clinton High School, Dr. Brian Fortenberry, saying, we want this. To the point that some of them are literally pressing him and saying, tell me why we can't have this. In writing, please tell me why we are unable to have a Turning Point USA club. We get a hold of the story, break it on social media. And the response that we got from folks who live in Clinton was, hey, we called and talked to the principal, and he said the reason they can't have it is because they started it too late in the year. Well, that night, I start doing some research. All right, let's figure out, is that true? Is there a policy in place for this? Read the entire Clinton School Handbook. Nothing in there about when clubs can start. Read the entirety of the school district's policies. Couldn't find anything. So I wrote the principal and the school board attorney and just said, hey, look, I've looked at all this stuff. I can't find any policy that says that this can't be done this time of year. And we had posed a bunch of different questions, public record requests, whatnot. Well, they come back the following day and release a statement that basically says, we didn't actually shut it down. We just told them that it couldn't be teacher-led and that it couldn't be this year, which is shutting it down.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we've been able to get together all these public records. It really looks, from my vantage point, like the two reasons they gave are pretense. First of all, students individually went to the principal and said, we want this club. So the idea that it's teacher-led based on this one email, where even the teacher said, oh, by the way, this has got to be student-led, is silly, and they seem to recognize that. And then the second idea, which is, hey, we had this policy that said it was too late in the year, they haven't been able to produce any written document that shows the existence of that policy. And so are you asking people to follow a hidden, unwritten practice in order to start a club? It all starts to feel like they were trying to cover for the original reason that we were told, which is that they originally told him it was too political. The problem with that, Clay, is it's a violation of the Constitution.
And what other political groups do they have at the school?
Sure. Even if there aren't any, the Constitution allows freedom of association around politics and policy. Two, there's federal law called the Equal Access Act that says these clubs have to be allowed on campus. And in 2022, there was a Mississippi law called the SPEAR Act that said these clubs have to be on campus. And so what it appeared to me, based on the sources that we had and the documents that we've received, is they made a mistake in telling the truth out at the beginning, which was, we think this is too political. And then they had to come back after the fact and find other explanations for not doing it. Those other explanations really just don't hold water.
I like it. I like them. I don't like that they did it, but I like that you grabbed a hold of this and we're exposing it. Do we know did we find the emails from the parents who have reached out, or did they reach out by call? Do we kind of know who spearheaded the revolt?
Not at this point. And so what I would say is, we did public record requests that asked for this information, right? Any emails, any text messages, any notes, written correspondence, etc., relate it to this subject with parents, students, faculty, district officials. What was produced to us was a string of emails between the teacher and students, and then a single email from the principal on the day that they released their original statement that basically had the no teacher-led policy in it. They didn't include any emails from parents or any text messages with parents or anything like that. The other thing they didn't include, because we had asked for this, was we wanted a list of all the clubs that had been previously approved, when they applied for approval, when they were accepted for approval, because we had been told by a fourth source that the same week that they were told it's too late in the year, another club became active. And honestly, we're just trying to figure out whether or not that's true, but the district has stonewalled us. So they haven't produced any of that stuff that we've asked for. They haven't produced any of the policy documents that we asked them for. And we asked them a series of questions that they just completely ignored. Like, we gave them the opportunity to say, no, you're wrong. It was never political. Like, I asked point blank, can you confirm whether or not you said it was political and divisive? And instead of saying, no, you're absolutely wrong, they just didn't reply.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to pick up right here. I got a couple questions I want to ask Russ about this. If you guys got any questions, comments, or whatnot concerning this whole debacle, the Mazda of Jackson phone line, 601-879-0002. I would really love to hear the public opinion on this. Do you guys think these type groups should be allowed in school? Do you think that Clinton is intentionally stonewalling conservative thought? What are they afraid of? I would love to know you all's opinions. I see them popping up here on the live chat. Again, the Mazda Jackson phone line, 601-879-0002. The Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
So,
welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show here live on WYAB. This segment brought to you by our friends over at Burgers, Blues, Barbecue, and B3 Catering. Guys, if you're going to be doing any tailgating action this weekend, whether it's high school football, college football, or anything else, or maybe you're just going to be at the house watching football all day and you don't feel like cooking, consider the tailgate menu from Burgers, Blues, Barbecue. You can check it out at burgersblues.com. Get you a tray full of their brisket queso. Oh, man, it's so good. How about a tray of their pulled pork sliders, hamburger sliders, smoked chicken wings? They got it all at Burgers, Blues, Barbecue. Maybe you don't need any of that. You just want a good blue plate lunch. They got you covered at all three great locations every Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. Everyday items include red beans and rice with country please and sausage or hamburger steak, and they have an alternating meat that you can check out there at burgersblues.com, see if it's something you're interested in. And look, they got burgers in their name. Low-hanging fruit here. They got a good burger. If you love hamburgers, try one of theirs. My personal favorite is the bacon jam smash burger with a little extra mayo added to it, or a little mayo added to it. It doesn't come with mayo, and a little sauteed peppers and onions and sauteed jalapenos. And man, it is so, so good. Then you dip it in some ranch. Oh, man. I've put ranch on anything, Russ. It's got to be homemade ranch.
My wife is like that too.
Got to be homemade ranch. If you don't have homemade ranch, I just assume nothing else on the menu is good.
Now, for me, you've been to a Chewy's before, right?
No.
A Tex-Mex place. Well, anyway, it's a chain, but a small chain. They have this jalapeno ranch dip. It's like the best stuff in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to make ranch. Mayonnaise, ranch powder, buttermilk. Mix it together.
There you go.
You know, if you want a little creamier, a little extra buttermilk. Want a little thicker, a little less buttermilk. It's easy. Make it. It's got to be cheaper than buying it by the gallon anyway. So they make good homemade ranch at Burgers, Blues, Barbecue is my point. Get by. Check them out today. Madison. By the way, the Madison location is open right now serving breakfast. Dogwood and Flowwood or downtown Brandon. BurgersBlues.com to book a food truck, to check out the catering menu, or to order and have your food delivered. You can do it all in one great location. BurgersBlues.com. Website looks phenomenal, too, by the way. Pictures of almost every item if you want to know what it looks like. That goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, no, it does. Good websites, good pictures, all that stuff is how you market stuff, right? It gets people salivating.
We eat with our eyes.
Yep, I think that's true. Our eyes and our nose.
Yeah, and my eyes are often bigger than my appetite, as they say.
Yeah, no, I think that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Russ, your opinion, do you just think this is political with TPUSA?
So let me say this to start, is I think whenever Clinton put out its statement in response to our original reporting, they basically said it's incorrect that we tried to shut it down, but then they explained why they had shut it down. So it was an odd statement. The other thing that I saw that bothered me almost more than the statement was the way that the media reacted, which was to just accept at face value with no critical thinking the explanation that was given, right? So they're saying, hey, the reason we didn't do this is because it was teacher-led, while simultaneously admitting in the same statement that students independently came to us and asked for this, right? So one, that doesn't hold water. And then they said, yeah, but we explained to those students that our quote unquote practice was to approve things this year and then allow them to go into effect next year. I asked the question point blank, well, what does that mean that next year there'll be a Turning Point USA chapter? And they didn't answer that question. But more importantly, that policy does not exist in writing, right? It doesn't exist anywhere, based on our investigation. And so neither one of those things hold water. And if neither one of those things hold water, there must be something else. And our sources said that the something else was the fact that you had parents that were angry about the idea of it coming on campus and a principal who just said, hey, this is going to be too political, which is unconstitutional. So what I would say, Russ's opinion, reading between the lines, looking at all the facts I know, the sources that we've talked to, I think the principal panicked and was trying to find a way to keep the peace, which I can respect at some level, which is, hey, we don't want to rock the boat here. We don't want to create tension. We want a unified campus. This is going to create some tension. So I'm going to find a way to say no. The problem with that is, yes, it violates the Constitution. Yes, it violates federal law. Yes, it violates state law. But there's a bigger sort of fundamental problem, which is the way to deal with the fact that we can't have constructive debate in this country is not to have no debate at all. It's to get better at having constructive debate.
Yes.
And that starts at an early age. And so if we can create a system where, yes, there can be a Turning Point USA chapter, and simultaneously, yes, there can be some sort of progressive chapter on campus, and students get to decide who they want to associate with, and we create an atmosphere where hopefully those groups are talking to each other, engaging with each other civilly, we're setting ourselves up for much better conversations in the future than what we're seeing in our country amongst adults right now. And so to me, instead of saying, I don't want to rock the boat, the answer should be, how do we create an environment where people get to associate with who they want, they get to say what they want, and we encourage students to do so in a way that is civil?
I would love to see a list of the current groups on the campus.
And we've asked for that, right? I know that there are at least social organizations on campus that, like, some conservatives would find objectionable. There's a Gay Straight Alliance Club as an example.
I was going to say, I would bet the farm that there's an LGBTQ alliance of some sort on there. There's going to be some type of civil, social justice, pro-black type group, and all those are fine.
And I would say great. I would say great. Right?
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is a situation where you're having viewpoint discrimination. And even like the other two, arguments, which is like, hey, this is teacher led. Well, one, I don't think that's true based on the documents that we've gotten. And I don't think it's true based on their own statement at some level. But the Constitution doesn't say you can't be inspired by an adult if you want to create a club on campus, right? Yeah. People can get ideas from other people. And candidly, every club on campus is required to have a sponsor. So one man's sponsor is another person's teacher-led group, right?
Yeah.
And then on this timing thing is, even if that policy did exist, you would have to show that it had been consistently applied, and it would still have to be tailored in a way legally that it didn't deprive people of their rights. So you could say, like, a senior is on campus and they're saying, hey, you're making me wait until next year. I won't be here next year. I'm going to graduate.
That was going to be what I was going to say. We got a great comment here on X from Bourbon Diplomacy, which may be the best name.
That's a great
X,
name,
by the way. It says Clinton School District attends school almost year-round now. So when is the correct time?
Yeah, I mean, again, what they put out through surrogates after we did our initial reporting was, hey, we've got this policy and they're in violation. They can't even point to something in writing. I mean,
yeah,
it seems pretextual when you can't show something in writing, and when you ignore a public record request that explicitly asked for who are the other clubs, when were they formed, when were they allowed to be on campus. They should be able to tell us all of that, unless they're just not keeping records of what clubs are on campus, which would suggest that they don't actually have a policy.
Right. So what is the next step? Is Magnolia Tribune to the point of a lawsuit?
Well, we wouldn't be the ones to file a lawsuit, right? A lawsuit would have to be filed either by some of the students who want the club, which would be the most likely scenario if they wanted to push that far, or if there were adults on campus, faculty that thought that their rights had been infringed upon at some level. My suspicion is that neither one of those things will happen because people don't like the idea of suing their own school. It takes a rare person. Like, you'll occasionally see lawsuits percolate. That's like 1 out of 1,000 people has the courage to say, hey, I'm going to do something like this.
Is Clinton an ISD or is it part of Hinds County?
I should know that. I don't off the top of my head. Yeah, I do know that because they've got their own superintendent. Yeah, it's independent.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I know Pearl is, and I grew up going to Byram, which is part of Hinds County, so I just wasn't sure if Clinton was part of that or not. I never actually, never needed to know that.
So, I mean, a lawsuit is possible. I don't necessarily see that. You know, I think the most likely scenario, if the high school does the right thing, they're not going to come out and admit that they violated the Constitution. No government official is ever going to be like, hey, I violate the Constitution, federal law, and state law. What you hear instead is the kind of stuff that you heard here, which is, oh, we wanted to help you, but you didn't follow this unwritten process that we expected you to follow. So they're not going to do that. But if I were the district, if I was on that board of the school, or if I was the principal, I'd be trying to figure out a way to get it started.
Yeah, there's got to be a way to put the paste back in the tube a little bit here before it spirals out of control. I mean,
well, it got mentioned on CNN.
That's right.
So you know, Abby Phillips' program Newsnight on CNN, it got mentioned there. I expect that there will be other national outlets that will be covering this. There's an opportunity for Clinton to do the right thing and recognize that kids deserve the right to have this kind of club on campus if they want it. For Magnolia Tribune's part, we're not giving up, right? We still have several public record requests that we don't feel like have been answered, and that weren't answered by the deadline. Statutory deadline. And so, we're going to pursue those documents because we think, based on what we've been told by sources and what is already available, that this policy doesn't exist and it hasn't been applied with other clubs. And we want to be able to establish that.
All right. I want to say this before the break. This is a result of the pressure that I assume they're getting in the background from the liberal parents, whether black, white, whatever. From liberal parents, most likely white liberal parents. This reeks of white liberal parent Karen behavior to me. It's where my spidey senses are going that direction. But what happens here is, and it's probably the parents of the students who are in the gay alliance and stuff of that nature. We've told these people, we have so sheltered these people and put them in this bubble, and they feel like anything that speaks against or it doesn't believe that isn't an ally is an enemy. And that they feel threatened by a TPUSA chapter. It's like a microaggression of sorts. And we have told these people that they're so protected, they're put in such a protective bubble that they don't not even have to hear personal insults. They don't even have to hear different opinions and thoughts from theirs. That this is hate speech. I mean, what the ADL put TPUSA as a hate group, which that came unraveled in glorious fashion yesterday. For the world to see. Thank you, Elon Musk. It's why I never got on the anti-Elon train. I knew he was just having a spasm, and let him have it and move on to the next thing. Elon brought attention to that thanks to a single tweet from somebody. It's like, hey, ADL has TPUSA as a hate group on their website, and they got that changed.
This was ADL or Southern Poverty Law?
ADL.
Okay.
American Defamation League?
Yeah. Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah, Anti-Defamation League. Yeah, the ADL had them as a hate group. Of course, Southern Poverty Law Center probably does too, but it is my goal to end up on their list as a terrorist hate group.
They have individuals on the list now, so you might be able to make it.
I am efforting the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center's hate group list. But anyway, I think that this is a trickle-down effect of that. We've sheltered these people. We told them that that words will never have to hurt them.
Yeah. And look, I'll say this, like, I think there's a part of people that see our reporting on this or see my commentary on this and they're like, oh, Russ is like pushing TPUSA. I'm really not. Like, philosophically, I would just look at it and say what I'm pushing is that students have the right to decide how they want to associate, what they want to believe, and how they want to communicate. That includes on high school campuses and school campuses. And so I would just say, like, I see people saying, hey, I think this is vile. You're allowed to think that TPUSA is vile. You're not allowed to stop somebody else from thinking that it's not.
Right.
And so that is the beauty of this country. It has always been the beauty of this country. Sort of what I talked about when we were doing the YouTube portion of this is like American pluralism, in some ways, the common value that we each get to believe and think what we want to think about the world. And we live in harmony with the recognition that other people can think differently. And so if we create an environment where every group has to fit within sort of tight parameters, we're destroying something that's sort of core to the fabric of America. So I would look at it and say, I don't care what TPUSA believes. I think they're being misrepresented very frequently about what they believe. What I care about is students get to make that decision for themselves.
Well, it goes back to the First Amendment, right? I don't have to agree with what you're saying, but I will fight for your right.
Voltaire, right? I mean, absolutely.
You know, and that's where we're at with this. Let's take a break. We got Russ Latino here. We're going to unpack this a little bit more when we come back. Phone line, 601-879-0002 is the Mazda of Jackson phone line. The Guns and Gear text, 769-241-1944. We're going to kick it to you guys and read some of your thoughts and opinions, but I would love to hear your phone calls when we come back. I know it's early. I know you're just waking up. You're drinking that coffee. I've been up 3 hours now. Come on, catch up with me. Open up. Let your voice be heard this morning. Where do you stand on this? We'll be right back. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show here live on WYAB. This segment brought to you by the Bronc and Buck Bash. You got to say it like that. The Bronc and Buck Bash. Next Sunday.
Sunday.
It is. Oh, I can't wait till next week, and I can start doing the Sundays when I promote it. It'll be the second or third year in a row that we've promoted this event. It's going out in Pillahatchee, Mississippi. It's going to be next Sunday. I think that's the 12th. It's the Bronc and Buck Bash, and look, it's to raise money for the Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department. You know, those are some good folks, man. Our volunteer fire departments. I wish we could get more money for those things from the state and really, fund them to the point that we don't have to do fundraisers for them, especially in these rural areas where they're so desperately needed. So shout out to Cole and his team for doing this big fundraiser here, and it's really just turned into something so big. And the technical name, I'm sorry, is actually the Rankin County Buck and Bronc Bash. Buck and Bronc, Bronc and Buck, that makes more sense, right? It's a Buck and Bronc Bash. Boy, you say
that's
that
hard.
3 times real fast.
That's hard. You say that on radio, you might end up getting regulated by the FCC.
Yeah, an F could slip in there accidentally real quick, couldn't it? But look, guys, it's to benefit the Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department and the ERCO, which is the Ever-Reaching Community Outreach Group. It's Sunday, October 12th, 2 p.m. at 122 Justin Drive in Pillahatchee. So mark your calendars. Next Sunday, it is the Rankin County Buck and Bronc Bash at 122 Justin Drive, and it benefits Leesburg Volunteer Fire Department. Going to be a good time. It's a big old event. There's going to be food trucks and stuff out there, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I love rodeos. And people, I'm a city boy, but I grew up. I love going to rodeos. I love watching bull riding. Who doesn't?
Yeah, that's fun.
It's the ultimate man versus animal. Really the last thing where we're really fighting animals. So get out there, enjoy it. Going to be a good time for a good cause, and it's just right here in Central Mississippi. All right, Russ Latino, MagnoliaTribune.com. Russ, we're unpacking this TPUSA versus Clinton debacle, so to say. And we've got an interesting comment. We talked about this off air a second ago from Jeff Murrah. I think he's watching on Facebook. He said he saw where Oklahoma is forcing all schools to have a TPUSA chapter, and we 100% agree that ain't the way to do this either.
Yeah, no,
that's forcing it on everybody.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely not the right way to do it either. Like if students want a club, they should be able to form a club. But the government saying you've got to associate with each other around this club is what the Supreme Court calls compelled speech, which is also a violation of the First Amendment. Beyond whether or not it's a violation of the First Amendment, it's just not a good idea. Let it happen organically. Let people decide we want this or we don't want this. So to me, that's the other side of this coin. Like there are people who are probably trying to prevent it, and we see that in Clinton. And then there are people who think that no, everybody should believe this. Both things are the wrong way to approach it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we as conservatives got to be very careful about forcing things like this on people because it's something we agree with. So, oh, yeah, go. But just remember, the other side inevitably always gets their swing at the bat as well. And next thing you know, it'll be BLM chapters in every school, an Antifa chapter. And I'm just picking the worst case scenarios because to them, a TPUSA chapter is the worst case scenario to some people. So pick whatever version of that is that's opposite of your beliefs, and it's welcome to join too, because I'm sure if you force that on there, somebody's going to come up with a lawsuit to say, well, you got to allow this then.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said this in reaction to the Jimmy Kimmel stuff and sort of the use of FCC power or the threat of FCC power in order to sort of intimidate ABC or some of their affiliates. Like, I think Jimmy Kimmel's a sanctimonious gas bag. Like, he says a lot of stuff that I think is just dumb. It's really not that funny. And he's alienated half of the country in the way that he presents himself. Let the market decide that, though, because you kind of give people an out when you say, hey, we're going to use the power of the FCC here. Not only is that, in my view, bad in terms of, like, giving them an out, I think it's bad long term because sort of what you're saying is, like, okay, today we use government power to cancel Jimmy Kimmel. Tomorrow, when people that we disagree with are in power, they use it to get preachers kicked out of churches for saying traditional marriage is the right thing, right? So just be really careful about the Pandora's box that's being opened. I say all that to also recognize that, like, the Biden administration did some of this stuff too, like with social media companies and censoring. There's this two wrongs make a right mentality that gets super dangerous at some point. And I just, like, before you get gung-ho about using the power of government to force what you believe on other people, recognize it can be done back to you. In my view, the better approach is to say, let's give people freedom to believe what they want, hang out with who they want, associate the way they want to associate, and let the chips fall where they may. And in that environment where you have multiple groups participating, you get to have real debate, and people get to decide for themselves. Here's where I want to be, or here's where I want to be. Column A or column B. Candidly, that was the Charlie Kirk approach. And he was successful because he went to college campuses. And you look at those early videos of him, the audience was overwhelmingly against him early on. By the end of it, the audience had swung pretty dramatically towards his camp. And you see it on college campuses right now. There's a rebirth of conservatism amongst young people right now.
It's cool to be, because it's almost punk rock to be conservative on a college campus now. Not almost, it is. I mean, you're going against the grain.
And so my whole thing is, let good ideas beat bad ideas.
Yeah.
Don't try and rig the game so that people only hear one set of things.
Did you see the video of the guys that went and set up there at Tennessee State? Surely you saw this whole thing last week.
I didn't.
They were just the white guy. One of them's not white, but one of he's actually an immigrant from Syria or somewhere like that. But they're basically they were wearing the MAGA hats, and they set up at an HBCU, and it's kind of debate me, bro, Charlie Kirk style stuff. And they were incendiary. They were kind of looking for a fight, so to say, an intense debate, and they got it. And they got chased off campus by a mob of angry black kids, and it required police and law enforcement. It basically turned into a race riot at Tennessee State last week. Their signs were like, DEI must be abolished, deport all illegal immigrants, kind of, and it's like, debate me. And it did not go over well. I think there's a fine line of doing that stuff, and you got to know your audience a little bit. And if you're going to go into one of these HBCUs where they've turned into what they've turned into. I won't drag you into it, but they need to do better. If you go there, you almost got to expect worst case scenario, and they got worst case scenario. You got to be careful doing that, but you can't react the way they did. And I go back and I blame this on the media, and I blame this on how these college campuses have been infiltrated by the left the way they have, in progressive groups and progressive professors and all this stuff. Is now, if you go on these campuses, or Clinton, you're kind of doing the same thing there. If you stifle free speech and you continue to tell people that conservatives are all racist, Nazis, and everything else, and if you're not 100% progressive, you're whatever the worst things in history are, it makes people feel threatened. Like those black kids, they felt threatened that they were in the true presence of white supremacy because what the media and these colleges have done in the way they have portrayed conservatives and red hat wearing MAGA.
Yeah, and look, I didn't see it, so I don't know what these guys were doing, or I didn't see the reaction either. I would just say there's a difference between can and should, too. And this is where we get into some horse sense, which is people can constitutionally express themselves, right? The government shouldn't decide what they should do, but people should self-regulate, too. Agreed. Right? There are social norms of things you do and don't do. And I would say, like, it sounds like those kids purposefully went there to be provocative, get clicks, get views, and maybe they got what they were looking for.
And got a little more than what they were looking for.
Or maybe a little more than what they were looking for. But there really is a difference between, yes, you have the freedom to do these things, but people also should have sort of internal guidance or regulation that says, this is stupid, I shouldn't do this.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people's opinions on me. I'm not going to go set up at Jackson State with a big FAFO booth with a debate me sign. You know what I mean? Like, well, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Sunday.
Yeah, I would put protection in place where I could get on and off campus without a riot taking place. You know, I would also get permission from the school to do it, even though I think there are free speech areas on campuses. At least I don't know if Jackson State is publicly funded or not. Some of these HBCUs are private schools. You know, you kind of get in the mix up there. But, you know, you got to use some sense.
Well, it's the conversation that was had after Charlie Kirk's assassination, and you had some people coming out and basically celebrating his death. It's like, you have the First Amendment right to do that. You're not free of social consequences from doing that. And so, you know, we were talking about whether or not the FCC should even exist. I don't think it should. I think it's silly that Joe Rogan can go on YouTube and cuss up a storm, but somebody accidentally says the S word on network television and they get fined.
Yep.
What's the difference between those two things? It's like government has decided to regulate one and not the other. That's goofy. But by the same token, I would say that the social consequence of somebody that went on NBC News and dropped 15 F-bombs would be that people would stop watching NBC News.
Well, they thought, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We're going to stay online. I want to carry this conversation on. We're live.
Oh, okay.
We're online only. I agree with you 100%. But I'll say this: it goes back to two wrongs not making a right. I don't think they should have done it the way they did. And, you know, I love incendiary stuff. I love being able to kind of go out there and say, and I agree with what the guys were saying, and basically. But the reaction, the nuclear reaction from the kids who, to me, it came across like they were scared to death that their worldview was being challenged. And they couldn't debate it. Like, I'm convinced that these progressives can't all really believe, and these young black kids can't all really believe some of the stuff that's being they're being brainwashed by. Like, you can't truly believe that there's a white supremacist hanging behind every corner waiting to jump out and get you. You know, that everything wrong in the black community is because of racism and systemic racism and black and white supremacy. But they've been taught that. And then the school came out. You can watch the video, and it's clearly a mob riot here. I mean, there's no.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not
I'll show it to you. You know, there's clearly no gray area. This is the overreaction did not handled well. Well, the school comes out and protects the kids. That our kids acted with professional and courteous the entire time. Did nothing wrong. I'm like, are you not watching the same video I did? I mean, this was an absolute riot. And it goes back to what they're being brainwashed, and it's why you got to have these other voices. Why you got to have a TPUSA at Clinton. It's why you got to allow good, safe debate or conversation, at least, where people can the marketplace of ideas. And when you don't allow it, and you just live in a bubble, and you only hear your side of things, and you never get that question, or you say that anybody who doesn't believe with this is a friggin' Nazi, is why Charlie Kirk got killed, is because the left-wing media has brainwashed this guy to thinking anybody that doesn't think guys should be able to cut their penises off and doesn't buy into trans ideology is the devil and doesn't want trans people to exist. And by that, it means it wants them all dead. You know, we're just in dangerous territory. I blame it on the media.
I think that danger, though, exists really on both sides. Like, we have created echo chambers for conservatives. We've created echo chambers for progressives. Like, we need to be exposed to people who see the world differently than us. 'Cause a lot of times that's because of different experiences. Like, I mean, if you grew up as a black child in a black household with grandparents that had experienced the civil rights movement, you're going to have that experience shape some of the way that you see the rest of the world.
As it should.
And so, like, for those kids, they need to be exposed to the reality that there are white people who don't think the way that some white people thought 60 or 70 years ago. By the same token, there are white people that need to be exposed to, like, people who've experienced these things, right? And go, okay, well, man, your life experience. I took a group to the Civil Rights Museum several years ago, and there was a group of older black ladies that was with us from a church. And they were just talking about, hey, we went to the shoe store. They would literally outline our feet on a piece of cardboard, cut out the cardboard, and then stick it in the shoe because they wouldn't let us put our feet in shoes. You hear that, and you're like, holy crap, that's heavy.
It is.
Because, like, I've never experienced something like that, or they weren't allowed to try on clothes. They had to just buy it and hope that it fit. And it's like, okay, well, there are people who have life experiences that have changed the way that they think about the world.
Deservingly so. And the older people that fought that, you know, they have to be looking now at the things that these people are fighting over that they're calling social justice and civil rights, and be like, guys, this ain't what we fought for. this ain't what I got sprayed down with a fire hose for. We blazed a path to create a better world for y'all, and y'all have absolutely nuked it.
Yeah, I look. We've just gotten a lot angrier and a lot more distrusting of each other than what we were even 15 or 20 years ago. If you looked at like people's sense of what racial satisfaction was 15, 20 years ago amongst black population, Hispanic, white, everybody thought that we had lived in much greater racial harmony then than now.
Yeah.
Something happened that fundamentally changed our perception on that stuff.
We're back. All right, welcome back in. As we land the plane for the day, we got about 20 seconds here. Guys, there's a lot of good content available. If you go back and watch the YouTube or Rumble or whatever, the digital side, listen to the podcast. We talked a lot during the breaks, as you can probably tell as we were coming back hot. Russ Latino, thank you so much for jumping in today, and we will follow up with you on all of this soon. Y'all can check it out, magnoliatribune.com. Russ, you got 5 minutes. Sure. You got 5 minutes. All right, I'm going to keep Russ here for 5 minutes, guys. Russ, I want to jump into the government shutdown real quick with you.
Okay.
So this will be internet exclusive here. What do you think is going to end up happening with this? I mean, I find it comical that the Democrats are doing their typical hair on fire stuff with this. All we're asking for is basically something I don't agree with, a continued resolution. They really just want to change the date on the Joe Biden spending bill.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, this is a threat against democracy and that nonsense per usual. And it appears to be that it's funding to PBS and health care for immigrants, illegal immigrants. What are your thoughts on this? How do you see it ending? Do you see it ending?
Yeah, I mean, it'll end. They always do. There'll be some form of capitulation on both sides, I would imagine, at some point. The problem with the health care debate is that it's just really dishonest. Like the spending bill that they passed, earlier this year really didn't go far enough in terms of reforms to some of those programs. And, it was billed as like, oh, we're going to dramatically cut Medicaid. Medicaid's budget's still going to go up by 25% over the next 10 years based on the reforms that happen, right? So, it's not – only in Washington, D.C. is a slower growth considered a cut.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're increasing spending by 25%, and they're saying that's not enough. And really, Benny Thompson, I know, talked about how it would impact Mississippians. Really, it won't impact Mississippians very much at all because we hadn't expanded Medicaid. States that expanded Medicaid are going to have some impact with work requirements and things like that. So this comes down to Republicans essentially saying we want to keep really high spending levels, and Democrats saying, yeah, but it's not enough. It's crazy to me that it would get billed as anything other than a Democratic shutdown.
Oh, it's a Schumer shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, it really is
and
crazy.
It's him running for. It's him because he's scared.
Because the House Republicans passed a bill, 55 senators voted to pass the same resolution. It really is like Democratic senators deciding that they can hold the majority party hostage, trying to roll back some stuff that really didn't do that much in the beginning. So,
did you see the clip that's going around of AOC? She was on MSNBC or CNN, and somebody asked her saying that there's a lot of people that are blaming this shutdown on saying you're responsible for this shutdown because Schumer is worried that you're going to primary him and try to take his seat. So he's trying to pander to the progressive side of the party. And keep in mind, she's a rank and file congresswoman, not a senator. And she says, well, if that's the case, in so many words, the senators, the Republican senators are welcome to come to my office and we can sit down and negotiate. And she's really just playing the card that she's the boss, but she never denies that she's going to primary Schumer. It's really just mind blowing, the disrespect to leadership and the thought that she is controlling this thing and that senators, that Cindy Hyde-Smith or somebody should come to her office and negotiate this whole deal.
Well, and look, I mean, at some level, she's not wrong that she's sort of become the new voice of the Democrats in Congress.
I agree with that.
Whether